everybody, and welcome to Kids Church. It's lovely to have you join with us again on this lovely morning. Thank you. Now, we've been speaking for the last few weeks about getting rid of the bad things in our lives. And if you remember Karen's wonderful experiment last week where she showed us how we could all be made clean. Well, for our story this morning, I'm going to introduce you to a couple of little friends of mine. This is Bruce. Here's Bruce. And here's Sean. There we go. There's Sean. Now, Bruce and Sean both decided that they would buy an orchard in the country. Sean went off to buy his orchard and he looked over the fence and he said, very nice. The apples are just beautiful in there, big and red and rosy, exactly how I like the apples. Beautiful, beautiful apples. I'll buy that orchard. So he went along and he bought the orchard. Bruce, on the other hand, went to buy his orchard. And again, the apples were beautiful and red and rosy when he looked. But Bruce wanted to make absolutely sure about what he was buying. So he went around and he carefully inspected all of the trees. He looked up and he looked down. He tested the soil. He shook the branches. He walked along the lines of apple trees, inspecting every single one. And then he decided that he too would buy an orchard. Well, it so happened that these two orchards were next to one another. And all through the apple season, the apples on both of the orchards were beautiful and red and absolutely delicious. And then, of course, it was time to pick the apples. Out went Sean, and he picked his apples and he filled baskets and baskets full. And out went Bruce, and he did the same. Then, of course, came the winter time. The leaves fell off the trees, and the apple trees became bare. Well, thought Bruce, now is the time. I've got to get to work. Well, thought Sean, now is the time I can have a rest. And off he went, got into bed and had a lovely snooze, saying, I can rest now until next season. Bruce, on the other hand, got out into the vineyard. He put on his gardening gloves and he took his pruning shears. If he could open them, there we are. He took off his pruning shears and he went out to his trees. He looked and he found that some of the wood on his trees was dying. So he went in and he carefully cut that off, pruned it down, pruned it right down until the apple tree looked very small. And he did this with every single one of the trees in his orchard. Well, Sean woke up and saw what Bruce was doing. And he laughed and laughed till his tummy hurt. What are you doing all that for? He said to Bruce. That's absolutely ridiculous. You had a wonderful crop of apples on your trees last year, and now just look at them. They're absolutely chopped down to nothing. What is that going to do? And Bruce said, well, I think you ought to do the same, Sean. It'll make your apples better. No, said Sean. I had lovely apples last year. I'm going to leave my trees as they are. Well, sure enough, winter passed and spring came again. Both lots of trees, Sean's and Bruce's, began to get leaves. But Sean's trees didn't seem to have as many leaves. They looked a bit straggly. Oh, well, he said, it's only the beginning of the season. They'll soon come good. Bruce, on the other hand, his trees got lots and lots of leaves and lots of flowers. And as the seasons turned, so both of the trees grew apples. Bruce's apples were big and red and yummy on his tree. But alas, Sean's apples were small and withered and not very tasty. Well, Sean went to Bruce and said, "Bruce, why is that? Why are my apples not like yours? My trees were just as good as yours." And Bruce said, "Sean, you know, in order to get good fruit, red shiny apples, you have to cut out the bad stuff from the tree. You have to cut it away so that the tree can grow stronger and produce better fruit." And now I'm going to pass you over to John to explain to you just what that fruit might be.
Hi children. Today, because we were talking about trees, we're going to have a tree. And on that tree we're going to put some fruit. Now you can draw your own tree, or you can use the one that I have sent round with the notes about about Kids Church. So when the vicar sent round the information about the church, she also sent this. So you can use that one and colour it in, or you can make your own picture of a tree. And we're going to put some fruit on that tree. And this fruit, of course, will be apples. So on here we have apples with words in. Now you can't see the words from there, I know, but we're going to look at those words, because when you prune an apple tree, you get better fruit. And when you give your heart to Jesus, then he gives you special fruit. As he prunes you, he takes away bad things, he gives you special things. And the things we're going to say, and it says in the Bible, are these. There's love, joy, peace, patience, or being patient, being kind, being good, being faithful, being gentle, and having self-control. Now many of those mean similar things. So if we think of the ones that may be easier to explain, patient. When you want to rush and do something, or when mum asks you to do something, you wait to listen to what you're supposed to do. So you have to be patient. You have to be kind to people. That is, you have to do things that would be good for them, not just things that would be good for you. You can be faithful. Faithful means that when you make a promise, you stick to your promise. And when you've got a friend, your friend's needs and wants are as important as yours. Gentle. Now, I'm sure you all have had fun if you've got brothers and sisters. Sometimes you're gentle with your brothers and sisters, and I'm sure sometimes you're not. But we should be gentle with everybody. So consider their feelings and how things will make them feel. Self-control at the bottom. Well, self-control is all about not rushing into things, not saying the first thing that comes into your head, but thinking how your words might affect somebody else. That's very important. And some of the things that we also develop are peace. So we are peaceful within ourselves. We don't have to worry a lot. Now, it doesn't mean we don't have any worries. The top three, in fact, love, joy and peace, are all about how you react to things. Love isn't about how you feel, it's about doing things for people. Joy isn't necessarily meaning you're happy all the time, because sometimes we're sad and sometimes bad things happen, but the important thing is that you can feel that God is working in you and He gives you the strength you need to cope and makes you feel joy even in the bad times. And peace, of course, is the same. You feel much better in the bad times. So what we're going to do is cut out apples, and we've got some of these apples cut out here, and a little bit of glue, and we put a little bit of glue on the back of the apple and stick the apples on the tree. So we have a tree that shows us all the different fruit that we can have from knowing Jesus. And we can, of course, being wanting to do this quickly, I'm doing it that way. Just put some glue on and stick your apples on your tree, and they will remind you the fruit that you get when you love Jesus.